Let's talk about alchemy in GURPS. I know that you might say eggplant, but you already made a video on this topic. But I was delusional back in the day and was shilling my own Metatronic alchemy system. Today I would like to talk about what I believe to be the best alchemy system in GURPS, with only one flaw: the standard alchemy from GURPS Magic. The system is simple, flavorful, functional, customizable, economically consistent, but it doesn't have a way to design new elixirs. If you do not count the list of elixirs, this alchemy system takes up only 4 pages. To create an elixir, you must have the alchemy skill, obviously. Brewing is a long process, but not as long as enchanting. The alchemist must attend the brewing process for 8 hours a day, but he may brew a batch of multiple doses of the same elixir by applying a penalty to his row. Don't get too cocky with the penalties, as a critical failure may result in an explosion that will injure you and destroy your laboratory. Speaking of that, a lab is pretty much required, as penalties for working without one are harsh. Each elixir is a technique that defaults to alchemy at a penalty. However, you can brew an elixir even if you didn't learn it, as long as you have a formulary or an instructor. GURPS Magic says that many formularies may be restricted or secret, but does not provide any prices for the openly available ones. Fortunately, GURPS Thaumatology Alchemical Baroque does have some pricing guidelines. GURPS Thaumatology also has expanded rules for inventing new elixirs, and a formulary is a byproduct of a successful prototype roll. Elixirs themselves come in different forms. GURPS Magic has potions, powders that must be mixed with food or drink, ointments, and pastilles that exude smoke when lit. GURPS Thaumatology has some new suggestions, and it's also easy to adapt some other forms from various pyramid articles, or even invent your own. There is a minor flaw here. The book doesn't actually tell you how the elixirs are used in terms of game mechanics. How many ready maneuvers do they require? Fortunately, GURPS Dungeon Fantasy 1 Adventurers provides this information. Each elixir has a name, description of its effect, duration, allowed forms, 2 costs, one for campaigns with common magic and one for campaigns with rare magic, and a recipe that contains the price of materials, brewing duration, and the technique default. GURPS Magic has a hefty list of elixirs, but if it's not enough, I'll mention various pyramid issues that have more of them later. Alchemists also can create alchemical charms that act like minor magic items. This is not appropriate for every campaign. I don't use them, but I can see the appeal. The standard alchemy system was expanded in other publications. GURPS Thaumatology has a bunch of new optional rules and ways to customize the system. It also has suggestions for dividing the alchemy skill into different specialties. This is something I do in my games. Pyramid 328 has new techniques, elixirs, elixir forms, and rules for interaction between alchemy and some magic spells. Pyramid 368 has a new specialty, Alchemy Metallic. Instead of creating potions, this one creates metallic discs and rings with temporary effects, or can be used to enhance metals. I really like this article, but the part about enhancing metals lacks some information. How long does it take? What are the limits? Do you need any ingredients? How much does enhanced metal cost? Pyramid 382 has an article that adapts alchemy to dungeon fantasy with optional rules, new equipment, power-ups, and so on. There is also a bunch of new alchemical charms at the end of the magazine. Pyramid 391 introduces dark alchemy. I use it as a separate specialty of the alchemy skill. This is a very good article, just like almost everything written by David Polver. Finally, I should also mention Herblore, a less scientific alternative to alchemy. Preparations created with this skill require cheaper and more available ingredients, but their formularies, called herbals, are even more rare. Also, not all elixirs are available to herbalists. GURPS Thaumatology expands the rules, even including a unique critical failure table for Herblore that is less dangerous than that of alchemy. What can I say? Back in the day, I had only one complaint about GURPS Magic alchemy, the lack of an elixir design system. Because of that, I made up my own Metatronic alchemy system that produced somewhat satisfying results. However, many of the elixirs felt either too expensive or too cheap. And a few days ago I realized that if I know what feels too expensive and what feels too cheap, then I do know what feels just right too. This means that the flow of the standard alchemy system isn't relevant anymore, as I can just pull numbers out of thin air that will feel right for my campaign. That's the design system. Everything else works just fine, and now I'm switching back to the good old GURPS Magic Alchemy. Thank you for watching, I will see you next time.